This is the new Pedrick Funeral Home in Keosauqua, Iowa. The old Pedrick Funeral Home was right across the street from where I lived. So the Pedrick brothers and I were pretty good friends. So they asked me to officiate at every funeral they had for people that didn't have a church or a minister. So I ended up with, within the 4 years that I lived there, 200 funerals, which is basically one a week over the years. I remember one time I had, at least once, maybe more, 3 funerals in a 24-hour period. So that wasn't that unusual. So there were a lot of people in that part of the country. It might surprise those that are involved in religious aspects, that there are that many people that are unchurched, or what we call unchurched, or don't have a religious affiliation that it means a lot to them. So that's where I ended up with all these. So here are the elements of a humanist funeral. What I think, it's my premise that the elements of any funeral and the elements of a humanist funeral are the same thing. It doesn't make any difference. So, of course, we're going to omit any scripture readings or prayers, but other than that, we still would have readings of some type, and I'll give some examples of that. Often the obituary is read, kind of a summation of the person's life. Music is a nice feature in a funeral. And then reflections, either by the person that is the facilitator or friends and family. Then some kind of closing, and then a dismissal. And or sometimes there's a gravesite service as well, depending on what arrangements the family has made. So, for instance, Shakespeare has got all kinds of sayings about death itself. And this is just some of them that I dug out. And my point more is, any author that we have that might be a favorite of ours, we could go to that author and Google the word death, and we'll get all kinds. Everybody has written about death. Everybody. Psychologists, philosophers, all kinds of folks. So Shakespeare is just one example, one early example of that. Here's one by John Lennon. I'm not claiming divinity. I've never claimed purity of soul. I've never claimed to have the answers to life. I only put out songs and answer questions as honestly as I can. But I still believe in peace, love, and understanding. So that's an example of just another quote. These are by my favorite, kind of my hero or my intellectual mentor, Dr. Carl Sagan, who also, I'm a member of the Society for Humanistic Judaism, and Dr. Sagan also was a member of the Society for Humanistic Judaism. And these are some of his quotes. "The cosmos is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be. It is far better to grasp the universe as it really is than to persist in delusion, however satisfying and reassuring." And one of my favorites, I love this one. "Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known." And here's another one by Dr. Sagan. "For small creatures such as we, the vastness is only bearable through love." That's a good one, I think. Okay, with the dying, I've done a lot of, as we've had, Peggy talked about, and other people have had a lot of interaction dealing with those people that are in the throes of dying. My strategy is mostly just listen. I'm not there to tell them anything, convince them of anything. I'm definitely not there to save their soul or lead them to some spiritual salvation. I just listen. What does this person want to talk about? But I still do not avoid the topic of death. That's not a good idea, as Peggy was talking about. But we have to allow space for emotion. This is hard for Americans such as we are. We always want to touch somebody when they're crying or hug them or something. And actually we're taught in school not to do that. because that stops somebody from expressing their emotion if we intervene with something physical. And honor the meaning that they put to their life and death. As Alan said, we're not there to contradict or take somebody's hope away, or tell them, oh no, you're not going to see that person. That's their meaning, and we have to honor whatever meaning they put to the dying experience. This one's from Elisabeth KublerRoss. Watching a peaceful death of a human being reminds us all of a falling star, one of a million lights in a vast sky that flares up for a brief moment only to disappear into the endless night forever. And with the grieving, allow for different individual styles, emotional, dramatic, cerebral, light. Everyone has their own way of dealing with death. I was at one funeral in New Jersey of a young man who was killed, a young black man, and his girlfriend was so distraught, she screamed, "Kenny, I'm coming to join you," and she ran and threw herself into the coffin. Well, that was the way she wanted to express grief. So we dealt with that and got her out of the coffin and got her to sit down, and things went on from there. But you have to allow space for people to express either a dramatic or a cerebral. Maybe they just want to deal with it like Dr. Spock, and they don't want to be emotional about it. We have to allow that. We can't decide what's appropriate in grieving. I saw one family where the son that was the closest to the father who had died didn't express any grief at all. And his family was pretty upset about that because they knew how close he was to him. Well, once they got to the grave and that part was over, then he broke down and cried. And that was his way of dealing with it. Everybody's different, and we all deal with grief in a different way. But action can be cathartic, which means that, for instance, at a Jewish funeral, people are going to take dirt and throw it into the grave. That's an expression of saying goodbye. Some people throw flowers into the grave, but anything like that can be encouraged or we can do is very cathartic and can help with the grieving process. This is a Buddhist quote. Few cross over the river, most are stranded on this side. On the river bank they run up and down, but the wise man, following the way, crosses over beyond the reach of death. And here's another one by Carl Sagan. After the earth dies, some 5 billion years from now, after it's burned to a crisp or even swallowed by the sun, there will be other worlds and stars and galaxies coming into being, and they will know nothing of a place once called Earth. Kind of puts things in perspective. Okay, how about questions? According to Dr. Sagan, there are naive questions, tedious questions, ill-phrased questions, questions put after inadequate self-criticism, but every question is a cry to understand the world. So does anyone have any questions or comments? Yeah. I should say, and I wanted to say earlier, and I think I forgot, was the one thing about what to do with the body after death is important, because in the Jewish tradition, the body will rise from the dead. So that's why it's not embalmed, it's washed, and in Iowa, a body has to be buried within 3 days unless refrigerated. So usually that's when the funeral takes place. Christianity picked up that same idea, that the resurrection of the dead meant you don't do away with the body, you preserve the body. But now within the Catholic Church, it's okay to be cremated if a member wants to be cremated, or other means at the end of life. But that's kind of where the tradition started in the Jewish faith, with the body will be resurrected. And as Alan pointed out, there is no soul without a body, and there is no body without a soul. It's a unity. So you have one, you get the other. And that's why the resurrection of the body. Yes, sir.
I'm a chaplain.
Oh, okay, good.
Work with people, a lot of people in hospice and other situations, but I've always been struck by kind of just generally the power of ritual, whether it's religious ritual or not. That, my experience is people, there's something about ritual that gives some structure for some sort of action they can take.
Oh, no doubt about it.
So when it comes to the end of life,
Right.
or for people grieving too,
Yes.
kind of the power of ritual. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on, how do you do that well for someone who might not be religious?
Yes.
How do you provide some of that guidance and some of that structure to make a meaningful ritual for them?
Yes, that is such a great point. And maybe we can work on this together. Because I'm a big fan of Mircea Eliade, who said the power of myth and ritual is just, it's universal. And we have to have it. I agree with you. That's why I didn't want to violate what I have known to be effective in a funeral service. To me, it's just it's the humanistic version, but it's the same elements. So I think what I would like to work on in the future is to come up with humanistic rituals that we can do to satisfy the very part of human nature that you're talking about. I think we can. A lot of the humanistic Jewish congregations are coming up with the same. They're still doing bar mitzvahs and bas mitzvahs and, rituals for death. They're just there's no God involved, there are no prayers involved in that. So I think you're right. What we have to do is reclaim some of the ritual that we could use as humanists. I really think so. I don't think doing away with it is a good idea because it satisfies something about being human we need. Excellent point. Yes, sir.
I like what you're doing here. I'm an atheist, and it's been depressing for decades to me to go to funerals that turn into commercials for that church.
Yes.
They're given by ministers who do not know the person.
No.
I had a friend who was a Wiccan. She went to her hometown. They buried her in the church, and the guy went on for an hour talking about what a great Christian she was.
Yes.
Not a clue.
Didn't know a thing about her. Yes. Isn't that disgusting?
Her family was all happy.
Oh yeah, but it's just disgusting for those that are thinking about it. Yes. Yeah, that's a good story. Thank you. Yes, Rocky.
I stepped out for a minute. I hope nobody brought this up, but one thing that I personally would like to have at whatever memorial I have, if you've seen it on the internet, called Why a Physicist Should Speak at Your Funeral.
Oh yes,
And
yes.
this is one of the greatest things.
Right. Yes.
To read for humanists.
Oh, that is so true. Here's where I want our religion to go. Where I want humanism to go, Rocky. A religion that stressed the magnificence of the universe, as revealed by modern science, might be able to draw forth reserves of reverence and awe hardly tapped by traditional faiths. Sooner or later, such a religion will emerge. That's from Dr. Sagan. I think that's the future. I really do. But we got to work at it. It's just not going to appear. We're going to have to put some work into this. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So how do you deal with the conflict of wishes of the deceased, perhaps a Wiccan, versus the survivors, the grievers, the family,
Yes.
who might be not Wiccan?
Well, what I always try to do, and we have some folks here that we've worked together on a funeral for their beloved daughter, is ask them what they want to do. And whatever they want to do is good. I'm good with. So the more they want to participate, the better that will be for them. It's part of healing is to participate. So that's where I go with it, is I try to listen. That's part of the listening. What do you want to do? How do you want to honor the person in your family? And do you want to do any reading? Do you want to do any music? Do you want to? And if they say yes, then that's what we do. So they kind of have the final word in that sense, because they're the closest to the person. It surprises me that the girl that was the Wiccan, her family was all fine with her being labeled a fundamentalist Christian when she was Wiccan. That's kind of shocking, almost, don't you think?
This was 40 years ago.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, yeah, she was way ahead of her time, yeah. Yeah, and you're still pissed about it, yeah, I can see. I don't know if that answers your question, sir, but
Yes, thank you.
yeah, okay, good enough for now. Yes, yes, sir,
If you're an atheist, as I am,
right,
100%, not even unsure to a little bit.
right, no, there's no doubt.
Right. Then the ceremony, if there is one,
Mhm.
is for the survivor.
Yes,
And if you call me something that I am not,
Mhm.
I'm not there to know.
right,
So if it makes them happy,
Yes.
it makes them happy,
right,
because I don't know about it.
right. So what you're saying, it doesn't matter to you.
Right. It
Yeah.
matters to them.
Yeah.
That's why they're having it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me. I ain't there anymore.
Well, that's kind of what they used to teach us in counseling was the wedding is for the family, not the bride and groom. What you're saying is the funeral's not for the deceased, it's for the family. Well, there's a lot of truth to that. At the same time, though, I'm a big fan of people making arrangements before they go. Go to a funeral home you trust. You can start paying them now. They'll be happy to take your money, a little bit each month, and you can specify what you want in your service.
An arsonist.
An arsonist, yeah, maybe, yeah. You could try that, yeah. Yes, yes, Rocky.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that should be part of your pre-planning.
Sure,
And
yeah,
with that person that you trust the most to carry out your wishes.
Right.
And I had a shocking experience just a few years ago when an atheist friend of mine
Mhm.
suddenly died of a brain aneurysm.
Oh.
I went to the memorial and there he was in a casket with the rosary wrapped in his hand.
yeah. See, his family did that, yes, yeah, yeah.
It was shocking and to me quite horrifying to see that.
Right, yes, sir,
As a
yes, Reverend.
hospice chaplain, I routinely tell the dying person, the best thing you can do for yourself and your family is to plan your own funeral.
Yes, plan your own funeral, yes. Because there's little decisions like how many limousines do you want, if any? What kind of music do you want? There's, yeah, everything. You can get that all done and then your family doesn't have to wonder about it. Unless they want to violate what you put down and call you a fundamentalist Christian.
In
Yeah.
fact, the converse of that is also true. The best way to create drama for family reunions for years to come is to not tell anybody what you want.
Oh, yeah.
And then they'll argue about it for 20 years after.
Right. Then it gives a nice topic for discussion. Yes, that's so true. Okay, any other questions or comments? Thank you, folks.